Georgia transfer portal update. So let's get into the transfer portal. That's what everyone wants to talk about. As soon as their team's out, like that's the number one topic for every team, really. And Georgia has been as hot as anybody on the transfer portal. Georgia fans were worried about a week ago, like, all these teams getting commits in the portal. Georgia still didn't have any. And now you're seeing the last couple days, Georgia just one guy after another. So it started with the Branch brothers from USC, Zachariah Branch, the former 5-star receiver, and Zion Branch, his brother, the 4-star safety from USC. These guys come in and fill two positions of need. For one, Anthony Evans transferred, Georgia's punt returner, and we'll obviously get to the guys that are leaving via the portal. But Zachariah Branch filling a role as a return man, and then just maybe that guy in the slot, just the big play, big yards after catch kind of guy. Like, he didn't have a great year at USC after a really promising freshman year, but I think the talent is still there. Like, he kind of reminds me of a Kadarius Toney type from Florida. Like, just that quick twitch. Like, some of those guys are just different. The way they move, the way they make people miss. I could see a little bit of that, and so hopefully, he has a bounce back year as a junior at Georgia. And then Zion Branch, obviously, with Malachi Starks going pro, as well as Dan Jackson graduating. Safety was going to be a position of need. And you don't only add Zion Branch from USC, you also add Jaden Harris, the safety out of Miami, as well as Adrian Maddox, the safety from UAB. And Maddox was committed to Florida as of a couple of days ago, never actually signed with them out of the portal. This guy's just kind of gradually worked his way up in the college football world. And I wonder how many more guys we'll see like this in the future. Starts his career at Alabama State, has a good couple years, transfers to UAB, just works his way up. And now this guy's going to be playing at the University of Georgia. So, this is one of I think the things people like about the portal. I guess it depends on who you are, because you're at the G5 level and you get a guy that Georgia wants. He's going to end up going to Georgia or wherever the other big time power program is. It just I think it kind of depletes that middle class of college football, of those good G5 schools, and probably those second tier power 4 schools. It just that's kind of what the portal, I think, has done a little bit. So it's interesting to see how teams are obviously going to approach that. We're still young in this portal era, but you've seen the way some teams approach it differently than others. So Georgia got those 4 guys committed when I was doing the show write-up, and then Noah Thomas, the wide receiver out of Texas A&M, also commits to Georgia. So Noah Thomas, he was A&M's leading receiver this year, 6'6", 200. Like, I think see a guy like that, like that's the kind of guy Georgia was missing in 2025 or in 2024, I should say. Like, you look at what Georgia had at this receiving group. Like, this is the biggest credit I have to give to Kirby Smart. Like, when Kirby Smart says there's a problem, he immediately addresses it. Like, he came in, 2016 and said Georgia doesn't have an elite SEC level offensive line. In 2 years, Georgia had an elite SEC offensive line. Like, he talked about how they needed to get bigger in the trenches, and they immediately, the defensive line recruiting Georgia's done, and production just in terms of, and development in terms of what these guys have gone on to do, be drafted first round and everything, is second to none, honestly. Kirby Smart says you want to get more explosive at the wide receiver group, and look at what this has become now. Like, you've added Zachariah Branch, you've added Noah Thomas in the portal, you brought in Taylon Taylor, a 5-star wide receiver in this 2025 class, as well as CJ Wiley, a big time, like top 50, top 100 4-star receiver out of Milton, Georgia. So when Kirby addresses, like, there's a problem, we need to do this, 9 times out of 10, the guy gets it done. When he said Georgia needs to be more explosive on offense, he went out and got Todd Monken, and Georgia had, one of the best offenses in college football in 2021 and 2022. And I know the Bobo haters are out there, Bobo is not Todd Monken, but 2023, the offense was damn good as well. So 2024, there's definitely things that need to improve. I can't explain why Georgia couldn't run the ball this year. Like with how Georgia recruits on the offensive line year in, year out, like it just didn't make sense. The running back group was obviously banged up, but I tend to think running the football is more about the offensive line than the running back personally. Like, I mean, a running back, I should say this. An average running back and a great offensive line is going to be a really good run game. An average offensive line and a really good running back, you're going to see something, I don't know, like 2019 Georgia or something, like where DeAndre Swift was the best player on the team, but it was just kind of a whatever group. I mean, and that's a group that had Andrew Thomas and Isaiah Wilson on it also. So, it all kind of depends. So not saying that specific team didn't have a good offensive line, but they didn't run the ball particularly well. And it's probably just more the offensive identity and everything. But that's a whole nother story for another day. But in general, I think an average running back behind a great offensive line, you can have a lot of success. And then the kind of running backs Georgia's got, I think behind a good offensive line should be really good. And it should be one of the best in the SEC year in, year out. So those are the portal additions, and so I'm really excited to see what some of those guys do to fill some of the holes on Georgia's roster. But then you also have the departures. So we're up to 10 total. I know we touched on like the original group that got in the portal like before the playoff, but since Georgia season has ended, we've seen 3 more guys enter the transfer portal. So far it's Anthony Evans, who, wasn't really a big part. This is the kind of guy that didn't really surprise me going to the portal because he seemed to have some ability. He had some of that quick twitch, make you miss ability. Like he had his moments as the punt returner, but he seemed like more of a gadget guy. And when they would use him on offense to be more to do like reverses and things like that, I think there's talk about like he wasn't a good blocker. Maybe that's why he didn't play as much. Like, I don't know, but with how Georgia limited where they were at the receiver position this year, I kind of thought he was a guy who could have made a bigger impact in just terms of like see what he can do. But so he's a guy that's I don't know where I haven't seen him really projected to land anywhere just yet, but he's one that's in the portal. Jaden Rashada, I thought was an interesting one because he's the former 5-star quarterback that had the whole whatever lawsuit situation with Florida and Miami, ends up at Arizona State, started a couple games in 2023 before he transferred to Georgia. So this guy knew 2024 he wasn't going to play, right? So this guy obviously wasn't coming in to start in 2024. So 2025, I think the logical assumption was that it's Jaden Rashada versus Gunnar Stockton to battle it out for the starting quarterback role in 2025. But according to most, I think Rusty Mansell was the one I heard say this from Dogs HQ, was that when Gunnar Stockton got hurt in the SEC championship game against Texas and Carson Beck was able to come in and hand the ball off for that final play, that Ryan Puglisi was the one who was actually warming up. So Puglisi, the true freshman, 0 starting experience, appeared to be the number 3 on Georgia's depth chart this year. So to see Jaden Rashada probably had maybe just being in practice, you just can just see a guy is better than you maybe, and the writing's on the wall. And maybe that's what did it. And so he thinks it's more of a Gunnar Stockton, Ryan Puglisi battle going into next year. So if that's the case, I guess it makes sense, but I still was a little surprised because this was a guy who knew it wasn't going to start in 2024. And so it was his whole like Georgia career was going to be 2025 and beyond. So it's interesting to see him transfer. And then the most disappointing one, I think, is on the defensive side of the ball with Damon Wilson entering his name into the portal. I felt like, on top of just what Georgia's losing in the outside linebacker room, you got Jalen Walker, you got Chaz Chambliss, you got even Sam Mpimba, the former 5-star who hadn't played at all. Like, he's already in the portal. So to lose Damon Wilson, which they haven't lost officially, I think there was some talks about he wasn't officially in the portal for a little bit, and he's going to come back to Georgia. And then I think he officially put his name in the portal earlier today. That doesn't mean that Georgia can't get him back. I'm sure Georgia wants him back. I think it can be a negotiating tactic to just put your name in the portal, let anybody, the highest bidder, win your services, and maybe that's the school you already play at that becomes the highest bidder. So interesting to see there. I've already seen a crystal ball prediction for Damon Wilson to Ohio State. And I think if he wasn't committed to Ohio, I want to say he was committed to Ohio State, but I could be wrong about that. Coming out of high school, he was a 5-star edge rusher coming out of Venice, Florida. But if he wasn't committed to Ohio State, I think he was like projected to Ohio State. So I think they were the kind of one of the favorites coming out of high school. I want to say he was committed, but I'll have to look that up. So to see Ohio State get a crystal ball prediction that quickly, that concerns you as a Georgia fan, because I think Damon Wilson was really coming along as the season went on this past year, and was one of Georgia's better pass rushers. So, and Georgia didn't have a great pass rush this year by any means. So to lose him, as well as the other guys you're losing in the portal and to the draft, I think that's definitely disappointing. So hopefully Damon Wilson, maybe there's still some hope that Georgia gets him back, but I think he is officially in the portal as of now.